Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ready for Retail. Our next guest is Josh Singer. He is the one who did it the traditional way, meaning not going through an open call, but he actually started a business called KidSole, which we'll talk about. And he did it by finding buyers, getting into line reviews, getting into the stores. And we're at a really good time for him because he's actually testing in 500 Walmart. So we'll get up to date on that. Up next, Josh Singer. All right, everybody, here is Josh Singer. Josh, welcome to the interview.
Thanks for having me, Brian.
Yeah. We're going to get started. I know a lot of people, when they come here, the first thing that they're looking for is the story of Walmart, right? We've already cut to the chase. You're in Walmart right now in 500 stores testing, but I want to go back a little bit and talk about how you got here. So if you don't mind, give us a little bit of a background on KidSole, how you came up with the idea, how you got started.
Yeah, so it's kind of a long story that starts when I was really young. Pretty active kid. I played soccer every season. Before the soccer season would start, my parents would have to go and register me. And at some point in middle school, I started having foot pain. And my parents ultimately took me to the pediatrician, and the pediatrician told them that there was nothing seriously wrong with my feet. I just had basic, they called it growing pains. And I would benefit from buying something from the pediatrician. It happened to be quite expensive, and my parents kind of complained about the cost associated with that, alongside with the registration of soccer, new soccer cleats, new uniform. And this became a recurring event every season. And so eventually I grew out of it. Most kids do grow out of this. And I went to school. I studied business. I graduated. I wanted to start my own company. I took a look at this landscape again and saw that still there were no options for families. You still had to go to the doctor to get these types of products, and there was nothing on the in retail stores. There was nothing even online, and this is back in 2014. So in 2014, I decided to try to launch an affordable and effective line of pediatric insoles and heel covers.
That's awesome. It's amazing. So I meet a lot of people in your shoes. And the one thing that I can tell the biggest difference is when someone has a personal investment in it, which is what you're talking about, right? There's a lot of people in your shoes that are serial entrepreneurs that go out and they're like, hey, I'm going to go find white space, or I'm going to go do this, or I'm going to launch a million things and see what fits. And I'll tell you, it makes such a big difference when there's that personal connection, right? Something that's actually meaningful to someone. So that's awesome. Tell us a little bit more about the actual process of getting started. Like, what did you do? Because I'm assuming it wasn't just go out and find something that already existed, because it didn't. So you were building something from scratch. Can you tell us a little bit about that process?
Yeah. So when I had started, I knew a bit about working with manufacturers overseas, just through other kind of entrepreneurial happenings. And I found a manufacturer initially that made insoles. So they had a bunch of off-the-shelf options. And the first thing I did was I asked them if they had kid sizes, and they didn't. And so I just ordered women's sizes. And so we brought a women's size over. It was small enough. I went to my youth soccer league that I grew up in, because remember this, I was fresh out of college and still young and near my hometown, and went there, asked parents at the soccer field what they thought about this insole and whether or not their kids were experiencing foot pain ever. And I had an overwhelmingly positive experience pitching this to them. And so I went back to the manufacturer. I ordered that product off the shelf, no modifications. I ordered a couple hundred units, and basically took that, went back to the soccer field, gave it away, got feedback from those parents, and then went back to work with the manufacturer to design the first actual KidSole product. And we got that packaged up. We imported a bunch of those, put it on our website, along with different sizes. And listed on Amazon, and that was kind of the genesis of the first KidSole product. And from that product, we continued getting feedback from actually paying customers and rolled all that feedback into new products to help address other problems that other kids were facing. And so we basically rinsed and repeated that process for the past 10 years. And now we have this catalog, a wide catalog of effective and affordable solutions.
So you mentioned that KidSole's been around for about 10 years. How long did it take for that first trade from like idea to talking to getting the manufacturer samples like it seems like it would take a little while. What was the timelines like on that?
It's not so long. I mean, with air shipping, so sh getting the samples would take 5 days, and then we would go and do our research, make the changes we needed, and we wouldn't even send anything back to them. We would just send them notes, and then they would go and get the files drawn and recreate another sample. And so there may have been some back and forth with new samples, but I mean, in general, 6 to 9 months, I think is a good timeline to get a new product off the ground in our space. Yeah,
I'm assuming Amazon was the first selling option that you had.
Amazon was the first. Yeah, Amazon was the first channel where we really took off. We always wanted to have our website, but you can't beat the traffic on Amazon. And to this day, it's still a bulk of our revenue. Yeah.
Perfect. Now, just so everyone knows, we're very authentic here and very transparent. Josh and I work together. He's a client of mine. We're not trying to hide anything. Everyone knows what I do. But talk to me about that mindset that you had when it was, we've gotten up and running. We've built a really good product. Now what? Like, I know you've gotten clinicians involved. I know retail was on the scope. As you've built this, what were those key moments in time, or what were you thinking about that was like, okay, I need to take this next step, put this next leg in the table, whatever you call it, so that you can continue to grow the brand beyond where it was?
Yeah. So a couple things. We started getting a lot of traction on Amazon, which was great. We had all these parents trusting KidSole with, KidSole as a brand. And uh, at the same time, though, it's like a single channel reliance. You mentioned another leg of the stool or the table. We were a one-legged table essentially. And so the goal was before we started, and now still is, I want to really be a national brand. I want KidSole to be a brand that parents can trust and go to find affordable solutions for their kids as they grow. And part of achieving that goal is trying to scale the brand. And so our first opportunity to scale the brand outside of Amazon came in the way of clinicians. I had been receiving emails from clinicians around the country asking for samples of our products. And I didn't have really like a sample kit to send them when they initially started reaching out. And so I was just sending them our products in retail packaging. However, throughout the years and up to about 2020, it became a point where I was receiving, uh, you know, uh, 5 to 10 of these sample requests a week from clinicians. And so I decided to go ahead and create this demo kit. So when clinicians emailed us, instead of just sending the products in retail packaging, I could send them a box with our products in them, and then provide them with literature on each product, and then also conduct a virtual in-service with these clinicians so they knew how to use our products in their practice. And that was really the second leg of the stool, if you will. And we've been working on that program since 2020, and now we work with over 1,500 clinicians, and that is very much a viable second leg of of our business. And from there, we started targeting retail.
I mean, makes sense. I think people skip a lot of steps in this process, and you've done two steps that I think are huge validators. The first one is when you were talking to moms, like you actually go to a soccer field and you're talking to a mom. That's validation. I've got 4 kids, have gone through all different athletics from volleyball to soccer, baseball, everything you name. And I can tell you that feet hurting is a huge issue, right? Up until meeting you, I never did anything about it. Like I was just like, suck it up and get over it. I was one of those dads like, yeah, you'll be fine. Mostly because I didn't know, right? Part of it is an educational thing. Part of it is, you want a tough kid or whatever, but that's not what you're talking about here. We're talking about it's about performance and things. So you get this validation from them. And then you go to this other industry that is literally not only going to help you with sales, but the credibility from that has to be huge. Like it has to be enormous. So, all right. So now you're ready for retail, like it says up in the corner right there.
Yeah.
What was your process? Were you trying to go hit buyers up? Were you looking for reps? Like talk us a little bit through that whole world.
Right. So very frustrating, to be honest. I set it as a goal, actually. I wanted to get into retail before I turned 40. That was my goal. I wanted to spend my 30s getting into a national retailer. And so we had signed up for a course, went to San Francisco for the course. There was a weekend long, training, and we were taught basically a system on how to get into retail. And I felt armed with the tools I needed. And so I spent a year or two trying to do that, reaching out to reaching out to buyers the way that I was taught, and it just wasn't working. It was very frustrating. And so I stopped trusting that individual that taught me how to do that and started calling other folks. And I just called you. I found your phone number online. I saw a video of you. I called you. You answered the phone. I think you were on the way to the airport, and did a little pitch. And you got back to me the following Monday, and I think we were off to the races after that.
Yeah, I remember that call. I mean, so for people who don't know, I get at least 2 calls, 3 calls a week from anyone who's sold millions of dollars on Amazon to people who have ideas and everything in between. And it's very rare that I go, nah, that can't be right. Right. Like I don't do that very often, but I remember the conversation because I have kids. I have athlete kids. I don't know a lot about a lot of categories, but I'm like, I know athletic kids, and surely there's insoles and heel cups for kids. Like I was just taken aback. I was getting ready to get on a plane. I actually pulled off because I wanted to finish the conversation right before I got to the airport. And so I get on the plane and stuff and I get landed. And so I literally went into every single retailer I know and don't know. Department stores, Walmart, Target, shoe stores, Scheels, Cabela, everything that I could think of. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. There are no kids insoles and heel cups in any one of them. And then we hit this other thing where I'm like, I got to be missing something, right? Like something's got to be missing. Like surely there's a reason why they don't. And we'll get farther into it. Not a reason why they don't. Maybe it's just the way it was and things were the way they were. So kudos for finding the opportunity and driving through it. So talk a little bit about, we went to 2 different things. You went to ECRM, which is, for those who don't know, it's like ArrangeMe and ECRM are now combined. It's like speed dating where you go and you have meetings. So you actually that was before Walmart, correct? The Walmart line review. So
Yeah.
talk to me a little bit about the ECRM program, and then we'll get into, Walmart and kind of that world.
Sure. Yeah. So I think we we had engaged the buyer with Walmart, but didn't have a line review and decided to attend ECRM. And so ECRM was a wild experience for me. It was wildly exciting and nerve-wracking and fun. And the way it works is exactly as you described. It's speed dating with buyers, the decision makers at all these retailers. And so when you go to register, they assign you a relevant category. And I'm not sure how it works behind the scenes, but you basically upload information about your product and your company. And then I guess the buyers are able to pick whether or not they want to have a meeting with you. And so I received, I think, 30 invitations to meet with people. And so we flew, I believe it was in Dallas, and you get a hotel room at in a venue, and there's the the ballrooms. And so inside these ballrooms is where these are hosted. And you have your own table. And so you sit at this little table. It's got to be a foot, a circle. And you sit there and they give you an iPad, and the iPad it's a very structured day, 15-minute meeting, and then you got 2 minutes or 3 minutes of a break, and then another buyer shows up at your table, and it's just back to back to back for days. And then the best part about the event was after these really structured meetings, they had very unstructured dinners. So they had delicious food and drink. And in the dinners, you were sitting at the tables with the buyers. So I was sitting and having dinner with the national buyer for Walgreens. You're just shooting the breeze with them, having a cocktail. And I think ECRM does that very intentionally. So you can continue kind of the conversation that you may have initiated with them earlier in the day, or you can get them interested even if you didn't have a meeting with them. So all in all, it was a very powerful event, and I'm very happy we attended it. We won the Buyer's Choice Award, which was kind of surprising. But at the end, the final dinner, they announced KidSole had won, and I had to go up in front of everybody and collect an award. And I guess the buyers had all voted on the product they liked the most. So we won. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's like, to your point, it's a great way to meet a bunch of buyers. There are a lot of events out there that, I wouldn't put my stamp of approval on, but ECRM is one of them. That is one that they do a really good job. Let's push that aside. Now let's talk about the Walmart side a little bit more.
Yeah.
We reached out to the buyer, and the buyer told us something. And I want to be very clear on this, that 10 years ago, if a Walmart buyer were to say, well, how are you doing on Walmart.com? They were brushing you off. Like, they were truly just saying, I don't want you. It's very different now, because when you came on board, I had actually signed 4 clients up at the exact same time within a month and a half of each other. And besides one of them, the other 3 were all told very specifically, get up and running on Walmart.com and prove that you can do something. So tell us a little bit about, the initial buyer contact, how you felt like when they were talking about Walmart.com, and then what you did about it.
Sure. Yeah. Well, the initial buyer contact was just wildly exciting. I was amazed that we had found her in this case, and was excited and ready to do whatever she wanted. And when she mentioned Walmart.com, I think I understood immediately why they're trying to compete with Amazon in the space. And for me, it wasn't a daunting task. It's something I've been doing for 10 years on Amazon. It's a pain in a way, just because it was a very similar system, but also different. They're just different ways of doing things, and their systems at the time were improving daily, and so things were changing pretty rapidly. But at the end of the day, that's what they wanted. And so what ensued was me spending the next year basically building our business on Walmart.com and providing quarterly updates to the buyer, so she could know that we're bought into this process. Like, we want to be a partner with you long term, and we want to build this with you. We're going to help you build Walmart.com, and we're going to help you build the business in Walmart. I wanted to convey that messaging, and I think that was my goal for the next year, basically. I think she had linked us up with an internal team at Walmart.com, so I had weekly meetings with them, helping me optimize our listings on Walmart, getting the detail pages set up to look the part, and getting onboarded with their advertising platform, which again, I was already familiar with just from doing all the advertising on Amazon. So it wasn't daunting. And we were able to show growth quarter over quarter to the buyer. And I think she was impressed with that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's twofold. I think it is showing results. The other is Walmart just wants to know you're in it. Right. And we're going to get to this. She said something in our meeting that I thought was really enlightening. Of those 4 people, basically all 4 were asked the same task. You and someone else took it seriously and kicked butt. And both of you are in Walmart right now. The other two said, nope, I don't want to get involved with Walmart.com. It's not worth it. It's not the size. I don't get the return as I do at Amazon. I'm not going to waste money. I'm not going to waste my time, blah, blah, blah. And those two are not in Walmart. So if you want real live evidence, he's sitting right here and I can give you examples of it. And I think one of the things you said is really important. Those quarterly updates, part of this, for lack of a better term, is keeping at the top of the buyer's mind, because they deal with so much information that a lot of times, if you're not, you don't have to be aggressive or be annoying, but you have to raise your hand every now and then and say, hey, I'm still here. Like, I'm still working over here. And so when we were setting quarterly review, like, she was excited. She was getting excited. She's like, hey, this is great. You guys met with our team. This is great. Like, it started this back and forth that we had, which led to, hey, we've done everything you asked for. We would like to get in your line review. And she said, yep, you earned it, right? It wasn't even about, you have a great product. That's one thing, but are you willing to do the work? Are you willing to prioritize Walmart? Josh said, yes, we are willing to prioritize. We're going to work our butts off. We're going to build results. And so you earn that spot in the line review. So talk to me a little bit about that. We send this email over. She says, hey, we're in a line review. I think it was July, a year ago or so. Walk us through that process and kind of where your head was at.
Again, just another part of this roller coaster. It was wildly exciting. I just remember just telling my wife, and it was pretty emotional. I just felt like Jet, the buyer, believed in us. I felt like we had convinced someone that they should put their trust in us, and I honestly ready. I just wanted to show all the work that we're willing to do to make this happen and be a good partner for Walmart. And so we did a bunch of planning, and then we had our flight. We bought flights and we flew to Arkansas, and we met, I think, for the second time at that point.
Yeah, that would be the second time you'd actually met in person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I don't. Do you want me to talk on something specifically? It was just a wild experience.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about the prep, because the prep to me is really important. Like, I know that you went through a program to show you how to put together presentations. And for me, that there's only a handful of things that you really need to convey information. Some of it's really important, some of it's not. But how are you feeling? What were you thinking is important? Was there anything that you're like, man, I thought this would be important, or this would not be important, and it was, or vice versa, in the prep or the meeting presentation material?
Yeah. So in the prep, I kind of thought that it would have been important to convey a little bit about the story, but in doing that, let the buyer know that we have been around for a while. We have a product that has been validated, and here's what we're going to do for Walmart. Here's how adding our product to your shelf is going to make a difference to your category. And in our case, we're a white space. So we've been around for 10 years. We've been growing throughout those 10 years, and you and no other retailer has this product on the shelf. We are going to be able to add incremental revenue to your store out of the gate, and the sky's the limit. So I think those were the important parts for me to convey. And in the line review, it was wild to see it clicked in her head probably after about 5 to 10 minutes of talking. And I think she may have whispered it, or she lightly said, this is a white space. and that was so exciting, because she understood what we could do for the category at that point. And it was kind of wild, because the line review kind of shifted at that point. And we kind of got off the presentation for a moment, and she kind of rolled over to the product samples and was like, okay, what are we going to put in the store?
It moved pretty fast, but I think that goes back to doing the work prior to even getting there, right? It's like we weren't going in so cold that it was a lot of dog and pony show. We had already talked to her. She'd seen the product enough from the online conversations. I do want to talk about one thing, because I think people overlook it. There's a picture on the very first slide of our presentation. What is that picture of?
Yeah. So there's a picture of me sitting on a soccer ball. I was probably 7 or 8, You can see that my jersey has it's my back, so you can see the jersey says Singer, which is my last name. If you zoom into the soccer ball, you can see my name because it's my soccer ball. It's kind of a cute photo, and I have that picture on there because I want to convey to folks that I work with, and that picture is used in my slide deck I give to clinicians when I perform in services, and I want to convey to them that I was a kid and I had mild foot issues that were costing my parents, money every year. And so I really am trying to solve a problem that every parent is experiencing. I'm a new parent now. It's not affordable at any stretch of the imagination. And so I think that I wanted to help, and so also partnering with Walmart, I mean, I felt like their customers were our customers. So that's why that slide is there.
Yeah. And it's an important slide because I think people brush over the fact that buyers are still human beings. And that human connection of knowing that you're working with someone who's genuinely invested in what they do, not just because they want to be a millionaire and flip their company and make lots of money, but because they believe in what they're doing. That authenticity is, I felt like in that meeting, and I've been in way more meetings than most people have ever been in. The second we were talking about that slide, you could just feel the room come together. It was just like, yeah,
Mm,
everything, like your tenseness, right? Because everyone's tense the first time they're sitting in a room like that just went away because you're just talking about yourself in this situation
hmm
you had. You're not trying to impress, or you're not trying to overstate or inflate or make this
Yeah.
major pitch. And that was a great meeting from beginning to end. Even at the end of it, you brought your demo kit that you used with
Mm,
clinicians, and she
hmm
asked if she could take it. She's like, "Can I
Yeah.
take this to go?" Like, we came there as people who didn't really know each other, feeling each other out. Dude, she left that room as a champion. Like, she was ready to go fight for you and KidSole, which is one of those things I don't think people realize. And I'm going to be very clear about this. A buyer is not just making decisions. They have to sell those decisions internally. If they don't believe in it and they can't convey the message as well as you did, it's toast. Like, it's done. Your job, Josh Singer sitting there, is to make her believe it, and not only believe it, but give her the right information that she can turn around to her boss and her boss's boss and her team members and go sell for you. And that was a prime example of taking your personal story, showing the success, showing the validations from clinicians, parents. Like, it was lined up beautifully. That was, I mean, that it was fun. Like, it was a fun meeting to be part
Yeah.
of. So
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
I, I mean, the world becomes a blur for me. It took a little while to have her come back and give us the okay. Now, you did say that we walked in with two products, had a portfolio, but we walked in thinking that there would be these two products. She actually made a case for a different product, and it was one of the products she told us about. Talk a little bit about her involvement, the process of her saying, yes, I'm going to put you in Walmart, this expectations, and kind of take us through that journey of that next step.
Do you mean in the line review or after like
Both.
when?
Yeah,
Okay.
both.
Yeah. So while we were in the line review, it was kind of interesting because we actually had three products that we had brought. One of them was a heel cup and two were insoles. And she was shying away from the heel cup. She said, "My heel cups in the category don't move." And yeah, I've never challenged a buyer, but I had to. I would have been remiss not to. And so I did step up and explain that children in particular suffer from a condition called severs, and they grow out of it as they get out of puberty. And so it would make sense for your adult heel cups to not be moving that much because yeah, most adults aren't suffering from this condition. I mean, they might have plantar fasciitis near their heel, but severs affects a large percentage of children. And so right then and there, she took my word. She took me as the owner. She took my word, and she said, "Okay." Noted. We'll go with the heel cup. And it was just as easy as that. Um, and we had some sales numbers we could show her to kind of convey that as being our kind of hero product online. And yeah, that was during the line review. And so
Yeah. And that's great. We've talked about it a little bit in some other conversations with Ready for Retail. Buyers aren't necessarily experts at their category. They expect their suppliers to be experts, right? Our buyer could have been buying toilet paper the week before. Like they move buyers on purpose. So a lot of them do a really great job of being very up to speed, on trend, knowing what's going on. But at the end of the day, who knows more about soda than Coke? Probably not a lot of buyers do, right? So they expect Coke to come in, and if they're walking in the wrong direction, very nicely, which you did a great job of tapping her on the shoulder and being like, well, here's why I disagree with you. Right. And that conversation went well. And because we had the data and the things to support it in your background, it was very easy for her to say, oh, okay, I get it.
mhm,
Yeah, that makes total sense.
mhm.
Um, so yeah, that is one of those things I think people don't realize, that you should walk in being an expert in your category. You should know so much about the category that any questions that come up, you feel very comfortable answering them, right? Because they're going to want that from you. So now she says yes. Now what?
Now we wait.
Yep.
And she told us that we were going to have to wait. And she said she'll make decision. I think we met in June, and I think she said you can expect an answer from me in August, I believe. And I don't think we actually heard from her until maybe September.
Yeah. After a couple of times of saying, hey, I thought you said August.
Yeah, and it was quite stressful because she did mention a range of stores. And from my perspective, that range is the cost of goods associated with one end of the range is way different than the cost of goods associated with the other end of the range. And so for like budgeting purposes, we really needed this information because I knew that the shelves were going to reset in the next year in March, and there's a whole supply chain we got to work with, all these different timelines. And so I mean, it just felt like everything was being cut so close the entire process. It was a bit stressful having not done it before, but I will say it did work out. I don't know if that's because I was a neurotic mess, making sure it was all going to work out, or if that's just how it is, and it just seems to shake itself out for everybody. I don't think it was the latter. It was probably the former, and my neuroticisms making sure everything's going to work.
Yeah. It's a little bit of both. Right? It does seem to work itself out. It's not completely, um, you know, she is a great buyer. I won't say she's a little bit greener. She's an associate buyer. She wasn't a senior buyer, hadn't been around for a long time. But you could tell she might have hit some hurdles internally or things, but she fought through all of them. She, and another thing about, we were talking about not being experts, there was a little give and take in there too, where one of the products that we had put out as a low arch support, she said should be sport, and talked about changing the packaging. And you went and did that. That's part of this collaborative process too, right? If a buyer's bought in and you're able to give them rationale when they're not making a good choice, or they're saying something that might not align with what you know, but also to give and take and say, hey, you know what? That's a great idea. And then go do the work and put a new package in front of her that she was super excited about. She's like, yeah, this is
Hmm.
great. So there is this give and take and understanding that she's bringing something to the table too. She knows shelf really, really well, right? You know the category online and kids really, really well. If we both do our jobs, we get to put something on, the shelf that people enjoy and hopefully purchase.
Yeah.
Now, yes, your neuroticism paid off quite a bit because you're a very detailed person. Um, I think I'll say this and then you can elaborate on it if you want. It's not easy. it's not, it's not for the mild mannered person. And the process can be tedious, daunting. Tell us a little bit about that, just from new item setups and G10
Yeah.
numbers and inners and outers and warehouse packs versus vendor. Like there's a lot to do.
Yeah. There's a lot to do. It's overwhelming. And it feels, at least in my mind, it felt as if I didn't nail this. I'm gonna create more problems. Maybe the launch isn't gonna work. Maybe I get delayed. Maybe I get fined. I mean, I was just very concerned about not acing everything, all the way from carton labeling. I mean, there's a 300-page PDF that Walmart has for their packaging and secondary packaging guidelines, is what they call it. And there are very specific instructions in there that you need to follow. And they're not hard, but it's just a lot of little details. And so yeah, when you're a small business, and I don't have it. I have a little team now, which is great, but I didn't have that much help doing that, you know? And so it's just kind of me and my wife. I'm sharing with her all this stuff. I mean, I don't want to tax Brian with it, but he would have helped as well. But it was just overwhelming, and you would run into hurdles. The hurdles, it felt like, were around every single corner, all the way up until basically launch week.
Yeah. Including changing costs, things like that come out of the
Yeah.
blue. That is a painful thing.
Yeah, the EDI was receiving errors. I mean, we had some issues with our logistics, and the transportation wasn't set up right. There was just we just kept getting hit with hurdles, and each one took all of my attention for hours and hours, days.
Yeah, it's the hat that I think is probably a little bit different than, everything that you were doing up till then. You probably had a decent amount of control over, and you and I have talked about this in depth. The two areas that I feel entrepreneurs struggle with a lot of times, one is the financing part of things, getting the money situated, understanding cash flow, understanding how much I have to invest for how long, and then really understanding an item level P&L so you're not getting surprised, right? Like that's horrible when
Mhm.
you're like, I didn't know I had to pay tariffs. I did, like all these things add up, and all of a sudden you're like, well, I'm not making money. It's like, well, you got to do the due diligence ahead of time to make that money. But the other one is operations, an operator, right? I'm not an operator. I'm a sales guy, general manager, retail dude. When you get involved with all of these different things, operations is a workhorse. Like it's a lot of work to make sure every little peg is in the right spot at the right time. And I would love to sit here and tell everyone, oh, here are the things you should look out for. You launched at almost the exact same time as another gentleman that I work with, and you two talk to each other, probably
Yeah,
a little bit as therapists at time or whatever. And most
yeah.
of the issues that you had were not the same.
That's
He would have
very
one
important.
issue
Yeah.
and you would have a different issue, and he would be fine on one thing and you'd be like, it isn't like there's this rule book. And so you have to be detailed and persistent. Like details and persistent. You can't just assume anything. I think that's why you're very successful and were able to get where you are and even get through the process on time and launch on time, is when something comes up, treat it with the sense of urgency it deserves, and just keep relentlessly solving that problem until it's done. And because, some people are like, well, I'll just send a ticket in, right? And how many Walmart tickets do you think you've turned into Retail Inc. in the past year?
Not a lot. I mean, relative to the amount of problems.
Yeah.
I mean, I send tickets in. You don't even know. They have several systems to send tickets into. There's so many different systems with Walmart. There's the retail link. There's the transportation people. There's the EDI people, and sending it's very confusing when you first get in as coming from an ecom background, because all this stuff is new. And so I sent tickets in. I don't. I think though. I think I called Retail Link more than anything. But most of the time, the problems aren't because of you. You didn't do anything, but it's still on you to figure out the solution. And all I can say is I learned that there is a solution for all these issues. Sometimes it's money. Sometimes you have to pay a little more money, which, if you recall, we were supposed to be a collect supplier when we launched, and we were. However, we weren't set up to be shipping collect, so we had to ship prepaid, which meant I had to spend a couple $1,000s when we launched just on shipping, which was not planned. But we fixed it, and now we're collect, and now I don't have to worry about that. But I guess what I want to convey is there's a solution out there for all these problems. You just have to work until you find the right person that's going to help you, or you got to find the right. Uh, there's a platform within Walmart called Academy, and that's where the support will send you to go learn. And that is helpful, and there is information in their academy that will walk you through the solutions to the problems you have. You just got to do the work and go into these massive documents and read.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for those people who don't know, when I say tickets, if you're working inside of their system and something's not working, you create a ticket which goes to like a help desk. And I mean, I love Walmart. It pays my bills in some ways and all that kind of stuff. But boy, that's a pain in the butt. We call it the black hole because
Yeah.
it's like, hopefully someone's going to look at it and do something. But I think it's that persistence, right? And we touched on something earlier. I'm going to go back to just for 1 second. When we sat down in that line review, I don't know if you remember this, but she had said, I wasn't expecting to see you guys here, because she put people on this task of taking care of Walmart.com, and people just go away. Like whatever, like, and that same persistence that it took to say, okay, I'm going to take this seriously and I'm going to fix this problem. I'm going to be a problem solver, not a complainer, and work with her team. She was like, I didn't expect to see you guys here. That persistence
Yeah.
paid off. It also pays off on the back end when you're trying to get through a system or trying to get an item set up and it keeps bombing out. And you're like, I don't know what, like, it doesn't even make sense, right? It
Yeah.
just literally goes into this world that doesn't exist. It's just poof, gone. But to your point, that persistence and problem solving ability and just the tenacity and willingness to put up, which might be more about your personal, to put up with that amount of pain and uncertainty.
Yeah.
That's the part that's the toughest for me, as
Yeah.
when I watch people go through it. There's always
Yeah.
excitement about going into a line. There's nerves and stuff, but there's excitement, right? You feel like you're prepared. Even coming out of it, even the waiting to some degree, it's a lot more painful to be so close. Like you're right at the end of it. Buyers said yes, and things just start breaking. That's when you're that's when you're really put to the test.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. It's a test. It's a bunch of hoops, and you got to jump through the hoops.
yeah. So how many Walmart stores are you in? What's going on right now? Talk a
Yeah.
little bit now about, hey, seeing your product sitting on a shelf at Walmart.
Yeah. Yeah. So we launched in 510-ish Walmarts ish. Yeah. And none of them are near where I live in Seattle. So we managed to sponsor a race in one of our bigger markets in Texas, and we all kind of met up and ran the event, which was really fun. And that's when I got to go see the product for the first time in the store, which is a day I had been waiting for, for so long. And it was just kind of a surreal experience. Yeah, it's just surreal. I mean, what it means, all of the work, all the stress, everything that I felt like I had been doing for the past, 10 years, the blood, sweat, and tears is just like, man, this is amazing to see. However, now's the time to work, right? So the show just started, right? Like now we've got to build the business. And so that's what I knew that going into this, and I feel that now. I feel an obligation. I feel like I have Walmart, buyer. I have a team of folks now, and it's like, all right, like we all believe in this thing. let's work to scale it. And so we've established a good baseline of sales with Walmart on the shelf. Like I'm very happy with what we're doing right out of the gate. I think it's good. However, we don't know how far we can grow it. And so now what we're doing is marketing. We're investing a lot of money in marketing. We're testing different regions with different types of marketing to see which works the best. And when we find what works the best, we're going to scale that. And in doing so, we're documenting, and we have, Walmart, you have to go to Walmart line reviews annually. And so we're documenting what we're doing, what's going on with what we're doing, and preparing to convey this to Walmart and our buyer in an effort to continue growing the business, show them that we're good partners and that we're really invested in building this space with them.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think from a timing perspective, people may scratch their heads, but we've been in Walmart now for 10 weeks and we have a line review in like 5 weeks from now. Like
Yeah.
it seems very tough, but I mean, everything that Josh has talked about is 2 years of conversations, getting in, build, like all of this stuff. And then all of a sudden you hit the ground running and it feels like, how could we possibly be in a line review 10 weeks after we just hit the shelf? But that's the way the cycle goes. Now, on the flip side of that, remember the buyer said they would get to us in August and it took September. Sometimes they need more data and sometimes that gets stretched out and they don't make decisions the week after a line review. It's months after a line review. But I think it's really important, something that you talked about. I think some people think the end goal is to get the product on the shelf and people are just going to walk by it, buy it, and everyone's going to be happy. And even in the line review that we had the first time, we showed Walmart what we wanted to do to be a good partner and drive people to the shelf, right? The goal is to have your item on a shopping list before they walk into a store, right? And so that's what we need to figure out over this next year as we continue to grow, as we go in and ask for more stores. So yeah, that it never stops, right? Is there ever a time you just get to sit back and breathe in the last 2 years? And
No.
you had a kid in the middle of it.
That's right.
That's good
Yeah.
planning.
It's been a wild couple of years. But it's fun, It really is fun. I love the idea that we get to try to build this business now. I love the process. And I think and I believe like we will go to the next line review and we're gonna show them how committed we are to this partnership. And I that's my goal. I want her or him to walk out of that meeting and say, okay, like they're committed to us and building this space.
Yeah.
So
And just to give people real live, oh crap, that happens sort of information, this buyer that was our champion, that was all about us, happy every time she sent an email, is gone. And
she left.
She left. Well, she didn't leave Walmart. She got promoted, which is great, right? She's still around. So yeah, that life happens. People move, all that kind of stuff. That's why I tell people this isn't a relationship game. It's a blueprint game. It's having the right design, not knowing the right people because they move. It's sad. I'm happy for her. I think she's great. I think she'll do great things. But yeah, I mean, we found out she'd sent everything out for her line reviews. And what was it, like 2 weeks ago? She's like, yeah, moving on to other things.
Yeah.
And so now we're going to meet with, at least at this moment in time, just to give people more of a peek behind the scenes, either a new buyer that we have not been introduced to or they haven't filled it yet. At the minimum, we will be meeting with the old buyer's boss. So now we'll be presenting to either a senior merchant or a director of the category-esque person that will cover that desk, which changes the dynamics a little bit, right? We were set up to go in and hold hands and sing and dance. And now it's like, it doesn't change a lot of it, but it actually has changed a little bit. We have to prepare now that we might be meeting with a brand new buyer who knows nothing about us. They're not a champion. They don't care. So we're almost going backwards a little bit, and we'll start with that little picture of Josh on a soccer ball. just to make sure everyone still knows where we came from. But
Uh-huh.
it goes to that persistence and the ability to just handle change is one why you're successful and why you're still here and still in the game. But it happens. It's just one of those things that happened. How did you feel when you knew that she was leaving?
I was I've already had understood that this is what buyers do. I mean, they just, they all, want to get promotions just like everybody else, and so that generally means they got to switch categories, or maybe maybe do they rotate them just to keep them fresh in the category and hungry? I don't know, but I expected it. I think you had warned me while after the line review that there's a chance we could lose her after the line review, and that would be the absolute worst case scenario. Yeah,
Yeah. This
yeah.
doesn't bother me at all. It's
Hmm.
it's when they're making decisions that would have been a problem because,
Yeah,
she was the only person in that meeting. And so if she comes out and she leaves, nobody represents us. Right now, we've got data, we've got everything. Like it's just a change that would have been the painful time to lose a buyers when you're launching something brand new and nobody knows who you are. Right.
yeah,
So this
yeah.
one's not so bad. Sometimes getting a new buyer is good. Sometimes it'll make the category a little stagnant. Like a buyer will come in so fresh that they're like, I'm just not going to make any changes, which
Yeah,
is a little bit painful. But anytime you get new buyers, their goal is to get promoted and make a name for themselves. What a better way to make a name for themselves than white space, true growth,
yeah,
launching something that, is barely started, right? People won't even remember the old buyer for doing this. They'll remember the new buyer more so because that person will be the one who's around when it happens. So like new buyers at this point or later don't really bother me. But you had a little bit of a question in there. They do rotate buyers just to keep them on their toes, but there are certain categories inside of a Walmart universe, and you can probably walk around and figure it out, right? So, soda moves really fast, things like that, front end, babies, huge. You look at that, and then you go to maybe something else, insoles and foot fungus might not be, the one that they're promoting out of, right? They're promoting
yeah,
through it, right? So there's some of both. You'll get some moving around and you get some categories that are just bigger categories because they get more exposure and they bring more money and they have bigger trends and all that kind of stuff. But yeah. So what's next? Now, where are you going from here? We've got the test, we've got line review. Um,
hmm
what else is in store for KidSole?
yeah. I mean, so I think before we lost the primary buyer, we had a different strategy, but now I think we're going in again. We want to convey that we're in this for the long run with Walmart. We want to be long-term partners, so we want to show them what we're doing, and ask. We want to ask for more distribution, so we can continue testing. We know from data on our website that we have a lot of people running searches from all over the country looking for Walmart. They're looking for Walmart stores. They're not looking for any other stores when they go to our store locator page. So I think that data is going to be very powerful to bring to the line review when we do ask for more distribution. And getting more distribution, it means that we'll have more money to invest in building the business. And so we could talk about how we're going to use the extra revenue in order to drive more traffic to build the partnership more, to build the category more. Because it's a white space. It's untested. And so I think that is in the near future kind of strategy.
Besides Walmart, I mean, I know Walmart is a primary focus. Are there other
Hmm.
retailers? Is there
Yeah.
a channel strategy that you're putting out there? It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we've established at least the foundation at Walmart. Now what
Hmm.
from a national perspective?
Yeah. Yeah. So from a national perspective in this, like, the realm of retail, we've kind of categorized the retailers. So we've got department stores, we've got grocery, we've got sporting goods stores like Shields and Dick's and Academy. Um, and then we've got kids shoe stores, and I think and then we've got pharmacy. I think those are all of the categories that we've identified as potential channels, they're all going to have different sales velocities. They're all going to take maybe slightly different product mix. But I think the goal for the next, I mean, this is a long-term goal. We could be building this, we could be really building this category for the next decade. I think attacking all of these different genres of store. Um, and so, yeah, just kind of building towards that, getting one store in each one of those kind of retailers, those genres of retailer. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough getting that first domino to fall. I think you did a really smart thing, which is once Walmart said yes, it was full focus Walmart, get everything
Hmm.
up and running. Now that it's running, 80% of the lessons learned, and that will help you with every other retailer, right? You're going to have different problems, different things, but the overall blueprint is very similar, right? So you can go after it. And I think this is where you get to go back to that ECRM and those contacts and things and start bringing some of that back up where you might have been like, well, kind of wait on it. Now's the time because it's going to take a year, right? It's like, I know
Yeah.
everyone, I literally had a call with someone yesterday. And they were like, and we had a pretty good conversation. And then they said something is like, well, do you think we'd be able to get into Walmart for Christmas this year? Really?
Yeah. Uh,
You think they're just like hanging around in May trying to figure out like Christmas was done in February. Like
yeah.
yeah, it's just a different world. I think people don't like the fact that it takes a while. It's not something easy.
It is long term. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's wrap it up. I appreciate the time. This has been great. Is there anything that you look back, like if you were to go talk to yourself 3 years ago before you even started, when you were sitting in San Francisco or wherever it was in that class, you're like, man, I wish someone would have told me this. This is the one thing just something that was like, man, if I would have done this differently, or maybe there's not, maybe it is what it is and it's worked out. So it can't all be horrible.
I just buckle in. I mean, it's such a roller coaster. Uh, it's a great ride, but man, it is ups and downs. It's stressful. It's stressful, but it's so worth it. I mean, it's a journey. I feel like we're getting to really have a good shot at building something. And so if you want to have that opportunity, you really have to strap in because you're going to get jerked around all over the place.
Yeah. It's that.
Your partner might be a little frustrated with you for just being so focused on things at times, but hopefully they'll understand. Um, yeah, I mean, but I did know that. I knew it was going to be kind of a wild experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
don't expect it to be easy. I mean, it's not an easy journey. You're gonna have to work and be stressed and grind through it, but it definitely is worth it. It's so fun. Yeah, like you're
Yeah.
building something. You're
Yeah.
actually building something that matters and that people are gonna use, and well, at least that's how I feel. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, and I know some people are like, no, it's not, but I've got 4 kids and you have your first one. It's kind of like being a parent. The highs are so much higher than you could ever imagine, right? Like you
yeah,
can't really imagine what it's like to love something like that till you have your own kids sitting there. And it's so much, and it's going to be cool, but it's so much
yeah,
cooler. And the lows are way lower. Like when your kid's in pain, you feel horrible. You're just like,
yeah. You just want to
it
fix it.
just yeah, that roller coaster ride is extreme. It is
Hmm.
highs of sitting in a room with a buyer, fall in love with something, be like, this wasn't so bad. Like this was
Yeah,
great. And then sitting there slamming your face against the keyboard, like, why won't this thing download? Like
yeah,
I'm doing what you're saying. Why don't you work? Like,
yep,
so
yeah.
it's yeah, that extreme thing. Yeah, buckle up. It's a ride. But I appreciate you for everything you do. Thank
Likewise.
you. Yeah, thank you
Same
for
to you,
being
man.
here. I hope, the goal of this whole thing, and someday we're going to launch it. I know it's been a couple months and through a lot of stuff, but I want to put kind of like you content out there, something that someone who's going through what you're going through can listen to the words that you have to say and learn from it, like get meaning, understand process, whether it's process,
Hmm.
perspective, all of
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I appreciate you taking the time. That's it, guys. Thank you. I'm sure you're supposed to hit buttons and click likes and do all that kind of stuff, but I don't know what it is because I'm old and I don't care. So thanks again, Josh. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Brian. Yeah.